Hey there, guys, and welcome back to the Travis and Damian podcast, episode 130. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and more. Today, we are talking about Echo, Sonic Prime Season 3, Palworld, Layoffs in Gaming, and more. But as usual, we're going to start with our recent activities, and I will let Damian go first before we get into my stuff.
Yeah, so just like last week, or 2 weeks ago, I talked about RE4, so I just started playing that, and now I have finished it. And, I already was saying, the game was, really good. It was really fucking good. Compared to RE2 and even 3, 3 was already starting to lean more towards the action side of things. But, Resident Evil 2 was very, survival horror. You were supposed to, gather your resources, make sure you don't use too much shit, solve a bunch of puzzles. RE4 kind of just forgoes a lot of that. You still have some ammo management to do. Every time you go to a fight, you're still gonna basically be out of everything, but you are shooting a shit ton of guys in this one. And it's a lot of fun though. Being able to I guess stagger an enemy by getting enough headshots or shooting them in the knees and then melee kicking them in the face, that never gets old the whole game. Just the amount of upgrades you could get, looting things just feels good after you beat a bunch of enemies to get all their money and shit. Getting all the treasures and slotting them into other treasures to sell them for more stuff. It's a very satisfying gameplay loop. And, when people say, oh, I played RE4, the original, 40 times and stuff, I'm like, that's crazy. But now I get it because, the game has a lot of replay value just from, using different weapons or just exploring other areas you didn't go to or stuff. There's a lot there. And, last podcast, I also said the game had a lot of content in it. And it does. You have the base game. You have Mercenaries, which I did a little bit of, and it's super fun. Basically, put into one part of the map, and then you just gotta kill a bunch of guys and get combos, survive as long as you can, and get a better score. It's very addicting and a ton of fun. And then obviously you have the New Game Plus stuff. You could do challenge runs. There's a ton that this game has to offer. And yeah, it's really good. Again, I can't really speak from the original to remake because I only played the village part of the original game. And to me, I think this is an improvement, but I don't think any of them cancel each other out. I think the original 4 still has the more goofy moments in them. This game is also goofy. Don't think it's that serious of a remake, but it does take itself a bit more seriously than the original 4. But I think they both could coexist at the same time, and I've seen a lot of people that like the original 4 also like the remake. So I think it does what it wants to do pretty well, being retains the spirit of the original while still being I guess up to modern times, I guess. And yeah, it was just a really good game. I can't wait to play more playthroughs of it and stuff. There's so many games, dude. There's it never stops. It's so many. I'm actually dying. But yeah, either way, RE4 really good. It's about 20 hours, so it's pretty long compared to the other RE games. But you got a big package there, so it's a great time. Next, I've been playing a bunch of Final Fantasy 14 because I was going to catch up on that game because last year I was barely able to play it because, again, so many games and I couldn't really dedicate a lot of time to it. But now I've been going back into it. I've been doing all the main story I missed, all the raids and dungeons I was missing as well. And yeah, it's been a really good time. Like I said, I think last time when Dawn Trail or when we were talking about most anticipated games, I'm very excited for Dawn Trail, the next expansion coming out. Coming at some point in summer, so I have a bunch of time to actually catch up with it. Because I don't know if I'm going to be able to play it too much more now because Persona 3 Reload is going to come out, and then Final Fantasy 7 Remake is going to come out, and there's a bunch of shit. But I'm doing as much as I can. Either way, I've been really enjoying Endwalker, and I'm really excited for Dawn Trail. And then next, I have Last of Us Part 2. So the remaster came out.
We're going to do spoilers, by the way, but
yeah.
Go on.
Okay, I'm not that. I'm 8 hours in. It kind of goes into some problems I already have with the game. Okay, so Last of Us Part 2. So I played Part 1, the remake, I think 2 years ago now? I think it was 2 years ago. That's crazy. Yeah. But either way, I loved it. I never played Last of Us on PS3. I played the remake on PS5. I loved it. Again, I can't really speak for any of the improvements it made because I didn't play the original. But I thought the gameplay was actually a lot of fun because it does borrow a lot from Last of Us Part 2. Now that I'm playing Part 2, I'm like, oh, they basically just made it in part 1 because all the systems are basically the same. So I never got that complaint where Last of Us 1 gameplay isn't that great because I played a remake and I thought it was really fun. But that was like one bit of the game. Also the characters and story. I thought that shit was very good. Joel and Ellie just have immediate like chemistry with each other, and all the other characters you meet you just kind of care for and stuff. And it was both great for gameplay and story. It was great. I can understand why so many people think it's like a 10 out of 10 because I think so too. It's a very well crafted game. So for Last of Us 2, obviously I've heard a lot of things about this game over the past 3 years, and I have done day 1. So I've done Ellie day 1. That took me like 7 hours to go through. So that's a very one complaint is the pacing, because I know the pacing is like probably one of the major complaints of this game, and that's that I could definitely see that, because I do feel like the story is kind of going a bit at a snail's pace of being like, this didn't really have to be like 7. I'm also slower. Like I am slower than most people. So maybe this might have taken you maybe 6-7 hours, but it's still like a long ass time for like 25% of the game apparently on my PlayStation that said that. I'm like, really? Holy shit. So yeah, I do feel the pacing is very like a little off. And that goes, I guess, with the story, like gameplay stuff. It's basically how I felt about part 1, just like a bit better because you have more tools and stuff. It's a lot of fun, like I think all the combat feels really crunchy. Whenever you shoot someone, it feels good. Scavenging is still fun to me. I know some people don't like that, but I like doing that. I really like the interactions you can have between humans and infected, so you can make them like fight each other. That's really cool as well. So gameplay stuff, I think it's great. Like I think it's fun. Graphics, obviously, it looks fucking great. Even on PS4, it looked like really good from what I was seeing. But now the game looks even better. It runs at a really smooth 60 FPS if you wanted to, which is what I'm doing. So yeah, all technical stuff, that shit looks great. Story-wise, that is the major concern. And to me, I definitely feel like I feel like all these new characters I just don't really care for immediately as much as I did with like Joel or Ellie or even any of the other characters in Last of Us Part 1. I know I'm only 8 hours in right now, so I'm gonna reserve judgment until I actually beat the game. But I feel like it was something with Last of Us Part 1 writing where they just, I don't know, like it was just you immediately connected with a lot of characters you saw. So like Joel and Ellie obviously, but same thing with like Tess and Bill. Like I don't know.
Sam and Henry.
Like, yeah, Sam and Henry. Like, there weren't that many characters in part 1, but I think that was for the better of that game because you instantly connected to them. You knew their struggle being like the apocalypse and them try to, survive it and stuff. And it was just compelling the whole way through. With part 2, it definitely feels like there's a lot more melodrama this time. Like, there's a lot more just like, oh, I'm pregnant and like, oh, I'm this and that. And I mean, like, that's fine. But yeah. I told my brother, I was like, this feels a lot more like how Last of Us Part 1 felt like the first season of Walking Dead, was just this very just like show just about survival and about like what's happening after the apocalypse and all that, and it was really good. I still think the first season of Walking Dead probably is the best season of Walking Dead because it was really fucking good. And not to say the other seasons weren't good, but that's kind of what Last of Us Part 2 feels like. It doesn't feel like the shitty seasons of Walking Dead, but it's starting to get into that more like melodramatic sort of stuff that just feels a little more just like we gotta add some spice to these characters so you care a bit more and stuff. And that's fine, but like if Dina dies I wouldn't care that much, if we're gonna be honest. Like she's fine, like I don't hate her or anything, but I definitely don't feel that same chemistry. Like, it feels very forced to me. Like her chemistry with Ellie doesn't feel as natural as with like Joel and stuff. Like it just feels like oh, I love you, Ellie. And I feel like they're saying it a lot more than like showing it, at least to me. I don't like hate her or anything. I just feel like it does feel a bit more forced. And, I haven't really spent time with Abby or anything yet besides like obviously the scene. But so I don't really know much about her yet. So I'm going to reserve judgment until I play it. But I feel that the game doesn't have as much of a pull with its characters to me as the first game did. And again, it's just more just like a basic revenge plot at the moment. Just like Ellie wants to obviously kill Abby and the rest of the wolves and stuff, and that's about it. Like we get some other things right now with the what they're called, the scars or whatever. Like they're starting to show up and stuff now, so that's cool. But it's basically been 8 hours of just like we gotta find this person and oh they're dead. Okay, now we gotta keep going. So yeah, like in terms of story
Tommy,
right now,
bro, my man's on a rampage.
Yeah, and Tommy's just like going in, and I'm like, where's Tommy? I want to find Tommy. That's more like the main thing I want to find because I like Tommy. But yeah, right now I'm gonna obviously reserve judgment until I actually beat the game and stuff. Hopefully it could be by next podcast. But right now, yeah, those are my major complaints. Being like, I don't think the characters are as compelling, and it does feel a bit long-winded at the moment. But I guess we'll see how that improves.
Yeah, I mean, it's been 3 years since I played it. Obviously, it came out in 2020, so I can't really say much because everything's a little foggy. Obviously, I remember like the key moments and everything like that, but I think everything you said is valid. I do. Now that I think about it, I'm like, yeah, Dina, I was like, she's Ellie's girlfriend. Like, what else is there to really say about her other than that? And, Jesse, he's my Asian guy. What can I say, But yeah, most of like the new characters are kind of just there and you do get somewhat attached to them. And that's all I'm going to say because it's going to get into spoiler territory. But yeah, I am eager to play Last of Us Part 2 again whenever I get the time, obviously, because I am currently sinking my teeth into, unless you got something else to say about Last of Us before I move on.
I try to think. I like the little open world segment. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
It was very like God of War 2018. So that was pretty nice.
You got like multiple different pathways to go in and whatnot.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I think that was the only time he does it, apparently. I don't know if he does it more. But that was pretty cool. I like that. So
okay. But yeah, I've been sinking my teeth into Alan Wake 2. And I played the first couple of hours of this before I got COVID. And then we had to delay the episode. So, but before then, I played Resident Evil 2. Randomly, my girlfriend Emma, she wanted to play a scary game with me. We tried Dead Space, and that day we were just really fucking tired, so we kind of just went to bed. We haven't picked it back up then, but she wanted to play Resident Evil 2, and I was like, all right, fine. I have this remake that I bought when it came out in like 2018 or whatever, and I was like, I've never finished it, so might as well start a new game, see how it goes from there. And we did all of Leon A, and that was very chaotic just because we played on normal, and she's not very good at aiming without the aim assist. So when we did Claire B, she chose the sort of like easier mode with the aim assist and everything like that. And yeah, I mean, Resident Evil 2 is a very, very good game. I think that when I was playing it for the first time, I was just really bad at it. I mean, I'm still kind of bad at like survival horror games when it comes to like the puzzles, especially. I'm just like, what the fuck do I do? I'm so stupid. But the gunplay and sort of managing your resources and getting through the enemies, fucking Mr. X, I hate that guy. He just makes everything so tense because you can't stop and think for a moment unless you pause the game because he's literally going to be right behind you, or if you go into a safe room. But yeah, Resident Evil 2 is like, if you've never played a survival horror game and you want to try it out, I think that this is like the perfect game to do it because it's affordable and it's on PS4, it has Xbox One, and I believe they're backwards compatible with the newer consoles. So, and I didn't download the PS5 upgrade until we did Claire B because I didn't realize that was a thing. But yeah, the game still looks great. It still runs fine. Claire B is different enough where it's like you have a lot of resources that they give you, but you don't have a lot of space. So you have to pick and choose between what you want to pick up and sort of what you want to use. So yeah, I mean, I think Claire is definitely a lot faster. I know you said this a while ago where you were like, yeah, it's just like a lot shorter, which I think is fine just because you already played through the entire game as Leon. So now playing it as Claire, it's going to be slightly different. Now you're trying to like protect the daughter or whatever of like this fucked up, umbrella organization. So, but yeah, playing Resident Evil 2 really prepped me to go back into Alan Wake 2 because I'm like, oh, okay, now I can see where like all of these survival horror elements are in here with like the sort of limited resources, the healing, sort of how you explore each and every area where there's multiple different pathways and you sort of want to open the map to see if like you've cleared everything. Like we did that a lot within Resident Evil 2 where we opened the map. Alan Wake 2 doesn't have that same thing where it goes from red to green. It's just that they show you on the map if you walked over like a container, like you will see it on there. But this game you play as Saga or Alan Wake, and for the most part within the first couple of hours of the game you were playing as Saga, and she is in like the, I guess like current time. She's in the real world trying to figure out what the fuck's going on within the town and sort of what is Alan Wake doing to this town. And then within Alan Wake's part of the story, you are figuring out what's going on within the dark place. And because of that element, both of them have like this like thing that you could go into when you hit the middle button on the PlayStation controller, where you go into like a board room. So like Saga, she's a FBI agent. So she's putting like all of these clues together. And then with Alan, he's obviously a writer. So he's going to put like story elements together. The best part about Alan's part of the campaign is that you can put certain elements within certain scenes to change it up. So like, for example, you're at like a murder scene and then you get like this element with like, the cult or something like that, and then you put that in, and then it changes up how that spot that you're playing in works, and it opens up different paths and everything like that. And it's very different from Alan Wake 1. Alan Wake 1 is very much like a survival, or not a survival horror. It's very much an action adventure game.
Yeah.
With some like horror elements. It's not like jump scary or anything like that. Fucking Alan Wake 2, man, I'm honestly like shitting my pants sometimes because I'm just like, fuck, man. Like, I don't want to go through, but I'm like, I gotta play this game because I want to talk about it. And it is just so scary. The sound direction, bro, because I'm playing with this headset and I'm playing on my monitor, whenever like the music starts kicking up or like there's no sound at all, I'm just like, fuck, man, I hate this game because it's just like, I'm so scared to just like walk around because I don't know what the hell is going to happen. I'm at the point now where I'm like 15 hours in and I can like kind of anticipate, like when I do a thing, I'm like, all right, I got to like get ready to like fight some people because like that's probably going to happen next. But man, fuck the sound direction, man. That shit actually like scares me because I'm just like the music's tensing up or like there's no music at all. But yeah, I could see the hype behind Alan Wake 2. Alan Wake 2 is like well worth the $60 price tag, even though it is only digital. So you're kind of at like the sort of helm of like the of like those marketplaces, which sucks. But Alan Wake 2 is very, very good. I'm still like not done with it. I believe I'm over the halfway point, and you could switch between Saga or Alan Wake whenever you want. They encourage you to go back and forth. So what I do is that I finish one chapter of Saga, then I go back to Alan, and then vice versa. But you could go back whenever you want. Like you could do a little bit of Saga, do a little bit of Alan, and keep switching back and forth. And I think that that's like pretty cool. You know, like they give that player the freedom to play the game how they want to play it, uncover this mystery how they want to play it, and it's pretty cool. I cannot wait to actually finish it because this is a long ass game, and it has definitely been worth my $60 just because, you know, this is like, I guess like my second survival horror game, and I'm just like terrified, but also like really, really enjoying it.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt like last year when I played like RE2 Remake, Dead Space Remake, RE3 Remake. Like playing all these games, I guess Last of Us to an extent. I wouldn't really count it, but I guess it's in the same kind of mode. I'm like, I think I really like this genre. You know, like, yeah, you know, it kind of feels bad to get spooked, I guess, but it also feels good. So like, I'm like, I like this. It's really good. It gets you really fucking tense.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that's a great feeling. I'm looking forward to playing Alan Wake 2. I do, maybe sometime this year when it's not as busy, I do want to play Alan Wake 1 and Control, and then get into Alan Wake 2. I definitely do want to do that. If not this year, definitely probably next year, but we'll see. I definitely want to do that though. So
yeah, I didn't play Control going into Alan Wake 2, and you know, I kind of get what's going on still. I think that for the most part, you need to play Alan Wake 1. Because if you go into Alan Wake 2, like, you're playing as Saga, and then once you go into Alan's story, it's like, what the fuck's happening? It's like, well, you didn't play Alan Wake 1, so you kind of don't really know how he got trapped within the dark place. Yeah. So I would definitely recommend you play Alan Wake 1 at least. I will go back and play Control at some point, because I have purchased it. At the same time, I bought Alan Wake 2, but I just wanted to play Alan Wake 2, because, you know, there's so much buzz and hype around it. But yeah, it is definitely living up to expectations so far. And then I have a few movies and TV shows. So first thing is that I saw Poor Things. This is the Emma Stone, Mark Ruffalo, Willem Dafoe. Like, this is like a stacked cast.
Got everyone,
and, yeah. You know, it's a pretty weird and interesting movie is what I will say. But it is very, very good. I think that you really do have to be like, I guess, like a sort of like cinema buff to really like, I guess, like really, really enjoy it. Yeah, exactly. I think that a lot of what this movie does is definitely because it is like categorized as a comedy, but I think if you don't sort of get that like it's a comedy, you're not gonna be laughing at first, because that's what happened within my theater. Like, I was laughing and I'm like, oh shit, no one else is laughing. I don't know. I don't know if I'm just being fucked up or weird, but I'm like, that was kind of funny. I don't know, but yeah. Poor Things is definitely like a very strange and weird movie. I think that I guess the normal general audience, if they go and watch this movie just on the fact that it's good, they should prepare themselves, because a lot of weird shit happens. So is pretty much what I'll say. And then last thing I watched was Daredevil season 3. And we will obviously talk about Echo, but I just want to quickly retouch on Daredevil season 3. Yeah, this is the best season of Daredevil. I fucking love this show. I've literally been obsessed with it ever since we finished watching season 3, just because I'm just like, I cannot wait to see what Marvel does bringing this cast back together. And everything about season 3 is just so goddamn good. Like, no episode is wasted at all. The characters with Charlie Cox, Ellen Ellen and Deborah, like they are just so good as like that trio, and I cannot wait to see them interact once again on screen. And also the new characters with Bullseye and Agent Nadim. Agent Nadim is a brand new original character that they brought on for this show, and he is surprisingly like one of the best parts of this season, along with everything else surrounding it. Yeah, I just really love Daredevil, and I cannot wait to see what they do with the Born Again stuff. But yeah, I guess that will transition into us talking about Echo. So when Echo dropped, obviously I'm a fucking Daredevil fanboy, so I watched, I think, the first 2 episodes that night. I didn't binge watch it all, and then throughout the following week I finished it up. But yeah, just before we get into spoilers, I thought it was good. I think that for them wanting to do a self-contained TVMA Marvel show, I think that it was fine. I think episode 1 could have been maybe a little drawn out more. Maybe they could have had like episode 1 be like the whole recap of like literally everything up until that point, instead of like mixing it in with the recap and the new stuff, because it definitely felt like, once again, with like most MCU shows, like it was rushed a little bit. I think having just like the first episode be like the whole recap of like us fleshing everything out between Kingpin and Echo, I think that would have been fine. But because that didn't happen, you know, some things felt rushed. But yeah, I think that the show overall is like pretty good. Obviously, the Daredevil cameo was like peak, obviously. But I think that the rest of the show is sort of what it's doing to introduce this new street level hero or anti-hero or whatever the fuck that they're doing into the MCU. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it as well. You know, I was actually surprised because, you know, after I finished, I'm like, yeah, that was pretty good. So I went to like, you know, to see what the general consensus of it was. And it seems like people were a little more negative than I was. Like, I think it has like a 6 on IMDb, which I would give it like a 7. I feel like most of the MCU shows are like 7s on there. And it's kind of weird that this one wasn't. But, you know, I do think, you know, what they're aiming for, the street level like hero stuff, I think it does feel different enough. Like, it doesn't feel like the other MCU shows, at least to me. The only part where it did feel like that is probably towards the very end, where they have to have like some big thing, you know, which is fine. But I think the whole show overall definitely felt more of like what they want. I didn't watch Netflix stuff yet, so I don't know if it's like more like that. But it definitely did feel different enough where it felt pretty refreshing to watch after watching so many of the Marvel shows on Disney Plus. So it did feel pretty good to see that. And it was cool to see that, you know, I guess continuing after Hawkeye, because, you know, you kind of have to do that at least, I think.
Yeah.
You could kind of get what's happening. Like, the show explains everything pretty well. Like, like when they say it was going to be off of Daredevil and stuff, like, you don't really need, like, I was fine not watching Daredevil and watching this, so you're fine if you didn't do that yet. But I do think Hawkeye, you probably do need to watch that just a little bit, so you get more of the Echo stuff and like what happens, like what leads to this and stuff. But I think as its own self-contained thing, I think it was pretty good.
Yeah, I think that as a you know, Daredevil fanboy, you know, it was nice to sort of get that backstory to see him fight Maya. But I think besides that, you don't really need to watch Daredevil. Obviously, you will get a lot more characterization with Wilson Fisk, sort of when he talks about like, you know, when my father was killed, and like Daredevil fans are like, what do you mean you did it? And then obviously like at the end, he's like, yeah, I killed him with this hammer, that they didn't have the same exact hammer for, whatever the fuck happened there. But yeah, I think that for this show being about Echo and sort of having Wilson Fisk become like, I guess like the main villain with this street level hero thing that they're trying to do, I think that it was done very, very well. You know, having Wilson Fisk sort of come into the show and have Vincent once again portray this character was a lot of fun. And having showing what kind of lengths that he was trying to go to have this relationship with Maya was also very interesting, because that is kind of like what the character is. Like, if he cares about something, he will try to like put his best foot forward. But one thing that people were pointing out on Twitter was that, like, you know, he had like that whole, I guess like the eye thing with the whole, you know, like sign language shit.
Sign language thing. Yeah.
And then some people brought up that like within the first season of Daredevil that he fucking learned Mandarin for like his underworld shit. And I was like, that's like a very like key thing where like he wasn't willing to learn signing for her.
Yeah.
But he was willing to learn another language for that. So I'm not sure if that was intentional or whatever, but, you know, just seeing this character back again within the MCU in the way that it is like awesome for me.
Yeah, I will say like the casting on Kingpin is like has always been like super fucking great. Like when I see that guy, I'm like, yeah, that's Kingpin. I'm like, that's like legit. Like you can't get better casting than that. Like, you know, obviously his acting is great. He looks like fucking Kingpin. Like it's just like it's great, the casting on him. And you know, I think the rest of the show's characters are pretty good too. I think the main issue is that it did feel like it needed more episodes. Like it was only 5 episodes and most of them were like 30, maybe 40 minutes. So it really wasn't that long to begin with. So like, I feel like we need it would be nice to get more characterization for her friend. I forgot what her friend was even called. Like that would have been nice because, you know, that seems to be a pretty important person to her. And she only got like maybe like a few scenes like that was like mostly about her and stuff. So that would have been nice. But it was cool to see like, you know, the that tribe's traditions and stuff. I don't know if that's what they actually like believe in and stuff, because at the end of this series it's just like thanks to this tribe for helping us with like this show. So I don't know if that's like the actual folklore or whatever, but it's pretty cool if it is, because you know I think they did a good job sort of showing that shit. And I did have like the dumbest thought, you know, when she was like evoking the power of like her past ancestors and like, yo, it's like Sly Cooper.
Stop.
like,
no, you're a fucking idiot. Yeah,
like,
she's such a dumbass.
It's like, yo, Tennessee Cooper, like fucking grind rails.
I mean,
yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, with the whole Native American stuff, you know, like that was like a thing that I think some people were hesitant on, because the director was like, her power is stupid, where she could just echo and sort of like mimic other people's moves. And I was like, I don't know, that seems kind of cool. But the way that they tied it in with this stuff, it's sort of this new interpretation of it. I was like, okay, yeah, like it makes sense. I think episode 5 or 4, I forget when she like talked to her grandma and she was like, you're an echo or some shit. I was just like, this is so corny and so stupid in the writing. But you know what? I'll let it slide. I think that, I guess like the final fight scene between Maya and Wilson Fisk and sort of her just like talking to him and sort of being like, yeah, no, fuck you kind of thing. I was like, okay, yeah, you know what? That's fair. But yeah, I think that the way that they sort of characterize Maya and sort of how they brought in her backstory with the whole car accident, how she got from Oklahoma to New York, and how she met Wilson Fisk, and sort of how they started working together with her uncle or her dad or whatever. I forget.
Yeah,
exactly,
it's her dad. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, all of that stuff, I think that it was all pieced together pretty nicely. Obviously, it's going to be a little jarring because now they're making the Netflix stuff canon. So it's kind of like, where was Vanessa? And sort of where does this show take place in everything?
Right.
Because, you know, it is kind of like weird to see like, oh, you know, like he was building this relationship with Maya, but where was Vanessa during this time? And sort of how did all that happen? Et cetera, you know? So obviously MCU timeline shit is obviously going to get fucked up now, because no one really thought that these Netflix shows were going to be canon. Not even myself, but hey, here we are. Marvel is in a fucking shithole when it comes to Daredevil and sort of like this like street level thing that they're trying to push. So they're like, all right, well, we got all these shows, so we'll just make them canon. But going back onto this show, yeah, I just really like what they did with sort of like Wilson Fisk and sort of his relationship with Maya, because that is like a pretty key thing within the comic books as well, and I think that they adapted it pretty nicely, all things considered.
Yeah, I think they did pretty well. Like you could tell, like Kingpin did care about her to, you know, like to go after that much trouble to like get her, but you could also tell, like, you know, he still probably just wanted to like use her just for like, you know, because she's strong. Because, you know, like what she says, like if he really did care, he would have learned sign language himself and stuff, and he just didn't. So he just made like a fancy like Google Glass to do it for him. But yeah, I actually really did like their dynamic, where even for her, like she also cared about him, but you know, he's obviously a bad person, and she has like, you know, her actual family to like look after her and stuff. So like I thought even at the end, she didn't want to like hurt him or anything. So I don't know. I thought that relationship was really good, because it wasn't like a black and white thing. It was like this really like confusing thing, and I thought that was really good. Like same thing when he beat the ice cream guy, like because it's just like he didn't give her ice cream, and you know, you could tell like he does care about her and stuff. And yeah, I don't know. I thought that relationship was really good, because of like how like weird and complex it was, you know.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like the TVMA stuff, you know, it was mostly just like them going over the top with the violence and the blood and everything like that. You know, nothing ever touches the Netflix stuff by far. You know?
It wasn't that bad. Like, it's just blood and stuff. Like, yeah, like I know about the car door scene in the Netflix.
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, but yeah, it was nothing like that. Yeah, so.
But I definitely hope that they push the TVMA stuff a little more, especially within this upcoming Daredevil series, because obviously, like, violence doesn't necessarily have to be there, but when you have sort of this other Daredevil series that you're sort of taking from and you're now making a new one, you kind of have to have that same tone, if you will. But yeah, I think that for the show as a whole, the fight sequences were pretty good, all things considered. I think that there's maybe too much cutting here and there between certain fight sequences, like the one within the roller rink. I think that one people were complaining about because there were a lot of cuts. I didn't notice it when I was watching. Maybe I'm just stupid or whatever. Obviously, I noticed that they tried to do a one-shot thing when they had that Daredevil cameo. I was like, oh, okay, it's kind of like a one-shot, but I could see where like potentially they could have like cut here when they like transition or whatever. But it was still like, all things considered, good action sequences.
Yeah, I enjoyed the fighting a lot too. It's nice to see more like, I guess, like more brutal hand-to-hand stuff, because we're so used to like with MCU stuff now where it's like just lasers and like powers and stuff. So it's cool to see that like just punch the shit out of people or like shooting and stuff. Ironically enough, it's like refreshing after seeing things like Secret Invasion, right? So yeah, I think that was pretty good. I know some of the hits don't look like they connect and stuff, but I feel like it was only a few scenes where it felt a bit clunky, where just like it obviously didn't hit. But I think for the most part it was pretty good. Like, I think the Maya versus Daredevil scene looked pretty good. So
yeah. And I guess one last thing I want to talk about is like, I guess like her dynamic with her family, and I guess like the friend character that you were alluding to, I believe is her cousin or whatever.
Yeah.
So I guess like all of this like family drama stuff, I think that was done pretty well as well. I think that sort of her having that conflict with her grandma, it's just like, you two just need to talk. I was like, yeah, I think that is just like the best course of action there, and I think everyone was sort of just like echoing that, if you will. But yeah, I think that making us care about her family dynamic and sort of the people around her and us getting to know her town within Oklahoma was done good. I forget the fucking joke character that we first meet within episode 1.
Which Biscuit? Are you talking about that guy? Yeah,
that guy was pretty fun.
Yeah, I like Biscuit. Yeah, he was pretty fun. Yeah, I really did like most of the characters in the show. Like, none of them like annoyed me or anything. Like, I thought even the comic relief character, I thought he had his like little badass moment with his like monster truck at the end, and it was a good time. Like, I really liked the finale with the powwow scene. Like that was a really fun like just sequence of events that was happening. But yeah, I think overall the show was pretty good. Like, it was nothing like amazing or anything, but I do think it was good and could hopefully be a good start for this Marvel Spotlight thing they're doing. And hopefully we see it continue to get better in quality with Daredevil Born Again. Because, I know a lot of people have really high expectations for that. And if they mess it up, I know a lot of people would not be happy about it. So hopefully they could really like learn the mistakes of this show and then like sort of like improve upon it in the next Spotlight. But overall, I think it was pretty good. I didn't hate it like some of the other Marvel shows. So that's good. So yeah.
Yeah. All right, so I guess we'll quickly talk about, I guess, like the castings that they've been getting and sort of like the things that they've been talking about Daredevil Born Again. So before the show got the whole overhaul, just like contextualize this stuff for some people if they don't know about it. So pretty much what they had with Daredevil Born Again, because they were filming last year, is that Charlie Cox wouldn't suit up until like episode 4, and it was much more of a law drama, and I believe Foggy and Karen were both dead at the start of the series. So that obviously had a lot of people upset, not just the fact that he wouldn't suit up until episode 4, but also the fact that 2 of the main side characters were just dead off screen. And that's kind of just like, well, is it like the snap, or are they just like dead kind of thing? And we may never know. And for the fact that what they had so far was just so bad for Kevin Feige and everyone else to just be like, we're just going to restart and just redo everything. And it seems like now it's going to be Daredevil season 4, kind of. Not really. Obviously, it's going to be under the Marvel Studios banner. So hopefully it could hit those same high marks that the Netflix show did. But my expectations are still kind of like timid, if you will. I'm not, having like super high hypes about it, but just seeing that the original actors are coming back, such as Bullseye, Foggy, and Karen, that they're reportedly going to come back within this new show is going to be great. I know Karen and Bullseye maybe only appear in 3 episodes or whatever, and I know they're chopping the episodes down from 18 to potentially 13 or 12, closer to what the original Netflix show was. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited for this. Obviously, Vincent also confirmed that they sort of made the Netflix shows canon once they were doing this overhaul, because they were, once again, like I said earlier, it was like, well, we don't know what the fuck we're doing. So let's just try to use this stuff and then just bounce off of that. And I think that that's a very good move, because obviously after Echo came out, which was another sort of thing that happened, is that Daredevil saw a spike on Disney Plus alongside The Punisher and also Hawkeye. So
yeah, so I mean, this is all great news. Like, you know, I was seeing a lot on Twitter where it's like, damn, how bad was the original script to make them be like, all right, we're just gonna make season 4 instead. But I think this is just less work for them too. Like, I think like you already have the groundwork covered, and you know, just get the people that want to make Daredevil, let them do it. But it's canon to the MCU, and there you go. That's it. That's all you gotta do. So, you know, I think it'll keep all the fans happy, and it'll keep things like less messy, at least like from the outset. I mean, it already looks like it's gonna be less of a messy production because it's like look what the fuck they were doing with the other one. So, so yeah, this should hopefully keep everyone happy, but I guess we'll see. And it does make me interested to see if they'll continue on the other Netflix series. Like, I don't know if like, obviously Daredevil because it's Daredevil, right? Like, he's the most popular, like, just not even from the shows, just because he's Daredevil, right? So I do wonder if like Jessica Jones or Iron Fist or whatever, if they're gonna make comebacks or whatever. That'd be pretty cool if you were a fan of that series and stuff. But I guess we'll see. I don't know if they're going to do more like spotlight heroes, like of different stuff, like, and fit it into this or what. But I don't know, man. It's going to be weird. Like, is Tom Holland going to be in this? It's going to be like, yo, hey, Daredevil in New York. But yeah, I don't really know. I don't know how they're going to do this. So we'll see. Again, the MCU has been such a fucking turmoil. I just want good stuff, right? Like, that's all I really care about at this point. If it connects together or what, like, I'm kind of over it. I just want the thing to be good. So yeah, we'll see what happens with this, but hopefully it's good, because I am going to start Daredevil soon, because it's not supposed to be too much Marvel stuff this year, so I can really catch up with that stuff. So yeah, I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, I think the next big Marvel thing is Deadpool 3, which is in July, late July, and they just wrapped filming, so that's a long ways away. But yeah, I'm just excited to see what they're able to do with this new canon that they've now sort of cemented within the MCU. And just let me know when you're rewatching Daredevil, because before this podcast, I was actually rewatching episode 1 of season 2, because I was just like, fuck it, why not? Because I just love this shit so much, and I'm probably gonna read some Daredevil comics soon, because I'm just excited to see what they could do. And hopefully, like you said, it doesn't flop, because if it does, you'll see 20,000 video essays on YouTube about it, about how it's so fucking bad. But I don't want that, obviously. You know, but we'll just have to wait and see.
All right, so I guess we can move on with the news. I could start.
Yep.
So Until Dawn is getting a bunch of stuff. So Until Dawn's getting a movie adaptation in the works. I don't really know. Hold on, let me let it load up. So Shazam. Wait, the guy who made Shazam is directing this?
Yeah, apparently.
Like the first one? I hope it's the first one. But
I mean, he directed both of them, so.
Oh, okay. Well, hopefully it's better than the second one. But either way, that's getting a movie. I don't know how well that's going to work, because I feel like the whole point of Until Dawn was to make your own decisions and stuff, and that's what made it super unique. And I feel like it just works better as a video game. Like, I feel like if you make it into a movie, unless they do something really crazy, like unless they do something very creative and weird with this movie, I just don't see it being as good as the game, because the game is, the whole point of it is like, oh, I'm going to do this like this or that like that. And, you know, it plays out as, you know, you would playing it. And, you know, Until Dawn is not really, it's a game, but, you know, it's not like that action intensive or anything. So I don't know. I feel like a movie's kind of missing the point of what made it so cool to begin with.
Yeah.
But if you do want to play the game, it's coming to PS5 and PC ports are also happening, so that's cool. I actually never played it myself. I just like watched people play it. I'm sure that's what most people did. But I feel like making it a movie is kind of missing the point, I think. But I don't know. Maybe it could work for more general audiences. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely hitting it right on the head. Until Dawn is pretty much like you're playing a horror movie. Like, that's pretty much
that's the whole point.
Yeah, it came out in 2015, so it is kind of old at this point. So for them to put it on PC and have a PS5 version, I think that is totally fair, especially since apparently the PS4 version just had some performance issues with like the frame rate and whatnot. So if it can go on PC and also PS5 and have a stable frame rate, I think that would be great. And also just introduce people to Until Dawn. Just like Damian, I watched, I believe FaZe Jev play it, just because I was a pussy when it came to horror back then. Obviously nowadays I still am to a certain extent, but I'm not afraid to have that controller in my hand and sort of have it play out. But yeah, Until Dawn is is, like I said, a horror video game that you're pretty much just playing out. You're playing out that movie scenario, and if you miss a single QTE, the character may die, which is kind of crazy. Which is why most people who play the game, at least a few characters, are gonna die either way. There are playthroughs and run-throughs that you can have where everyone lives. That's obviously extremely hard, and you have to do very specific things to get that. But I think that for them to make a movie about it, it could work. It could possibly not work as well. I think that if they were to cast the people to do this, why not just get the original cast from Until Dawn? Because all they did, I believe, was just like mocap stuff. So just get them to act out within this new PlayStation horror movie that they're trying to make, and see how that pans out. Because I think that would be pretty cool as well. But if there's like a huge twist behind it, or maybe they're doing something crazy with it, I don't know. But we'll just have to wait and see exactly what this Until Dawn movie will entail, if it's even going to come out at all.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so now we got a What If version of Star Wars is reportedly in the works, and they have officially shown What If Marvel Season 3. So first with the Star Wars thing, a What If version of Star Wars. I don't know how I feel about this. I mean, obviously, me and Damian have very negative opinions on the Marvel What If stuff so far, just because it's just been like kind of trash. There's a few standout episodes between both seasons, but I can't say that the whole seasons between both of them were good. So if they were to do a Star Wars version, obviously there's a lot of interesting things that they can do. Like, what if Ben Solo was good and didn't turn into Kylo Ren, and a bunch of other stuff that I can't think of on the top of my head. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting Star Wars characters that they could sort of twist around and sort of make good or bad or whatever, do interesting concepts with it. Will it be good? I don't know. I just hope that they don't connect everything together. Like, that's just like my one thing, is that if you're going to do a anthology series about what if, quick little stories, just don't connect them. Like, there's no reason to connect them at all. And with this whole Marvel What If Season 3, I'm just like, all right, well, we got Sam Wilson. Like, that's cool. We haven't seen him since fucking the Falcon show. I think that is awesome to see him in something, at least. But the mech stuff looks pretty cool as well. I cannot deny that. Seeing that Captain America mech, I'm just like, okay, yeah, like that looks cool. But like, other than that, it's like, what are these stories going to be? Are they going to be engaging enough for me to be like, okay, yeah, like that was worth my 30 minutes of time? Or is it going to be another What If Season 2 scenario?
I'm like honestly shocked they're even continuing it, because like I don't really like hear that much people talk about to begin with. Mm-hmm. Like I'm shocked ahead of season 2, and I'm even more shocked they're considering it for Star Wars. Like I would rather them continue Visions. Like again, I thought Vision season 2 was fucking great. Mm-hmm. Like I thought season 1 was like pretty good, but I thought season 2 was like so unique and cool, and I loved it. Like along with Andor, like I think that's some of the best like Star Wars, like I guess more like stuff on the side that's really good, like they're not movies, I guess. So I'd rather put their money into that. But I guess if we're arguing a What If Star Wars thing, like you said, just don't make it connect. Come up with some interesting stuff, I guess. But even then, I feel like a lot of the What If situations in Star Wars are more like generation spanning. So if you put like, what if Obi-Wan like died in Mustafar or some shit like at the end of episode 3, then that's gonna have to be a whole thing, I guess. But I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of cool things you could do, but I also feel like I don't care enough for that to happen. And again, with Marvel What If Season 3, I'm just like, all right. Like, again, there's some good episodes. Like, I still feel like that Doctor Strange episode in the first What If, I thought was actually very good. Like, I thought that was really good. And apparently Marvel did too, because they keep taking like Supreme Doctor Strange and stuff. But like I feel like a majority of the episodes are just kind of mid, and I'm hoping that doesn't happen with Star Wars, but it's probably gonna happen. Like they might have some meme episodes, like Jar Jar Binks is a Sith Lord and stuff, like have those fun episodes. But I don't know. I'd rather them just keep putting money into like Visions and making other studios do better stuff. But I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I definitely think that Marvel What If Season 3 is happening because they probably had those animators working on stuff while the strikes were going on. They were like, well, you guys could do stuff, but we can't have like the voice actors or anything within the booth. So here's what we got. Just animate this stuff, and then we'll get back to you when it'll come out. So that's probably what happened. That's just my theory, obviously. But yeah, I just hope that we just get, some good some good media. Like, that's all I can really ask for. I don't give a fuck if it connects or whatever, even though Star Wars Visions, they had some stinker episodes or whatever, as I guess we would call them, but even then they were still fun and enjoyable and something new. I think that is also very important.
Yeah, I think they were all like unique enough to like pretty much stand on their own. Like, yeah, some of them aren't as interesting as others, but you can feel like they tried, I guess. Mm-hmm. So, and I can't say that about all the What If episodes. So, all right. So next, we finally got the first actual trailer for the Netflix Avatar: The Last Airbender series. So I think right off the bat, it looks way better than the movie we got all those years ago. I think all the characters look, I think all the costumes and stuff look really good. The CG looks very impressive on a lot of the monsters and stuff. I think Avatar has some pretty unique, like, I guess, monsters, because it's just like, oh, here's an ostrich bird or whatever, and it looked good. And I think from some of the bending they've been showing, actually looks really good. Like the fights and stuff, since Avatar really took from a lot of real life sort of fighting styles in the show, I think it actually translates very well into live action, just them fighting and stuff. And the effects look good as well. The movie, the Shyamalan movie looked fucking terrible with its effects, but this movie, I'm sorry, this show's effects looks really good, and the fighting looks pretty good as well. Again, I don't know about the acting. I don't know how these characters are gonna be portrayed because it's just a trailer, so I don't really know. But I think just visually, it does look really good. Like, it looks like Avatar if it was in live action, and that's good. But again, is there, like, if you're a fan of Avatar, should you watch this or the animated series? I don't really know, but I'll probably give it a shot and see what I think. But I always know the animated show is there, even if this one isn't that great, so.
Yeah, exactly. I think that visually it looks good. I think that no one can really deny that. Like, they definitely tried their best to be as accurate to the animation as possible and sort of have it translate into live action stuff, and it looks good. Obviously, I think I've said this before, but the problem is that, well, will these performances land? Will they hit the same beats as they did before within the cartoon? And obviously, what are they going to cut out from the cartoon? Obviously, there's some filler episodes and
great
things
divide.
you could cut some of that stuff out to go get to, like, I guess, like, the main point of what this show's about. And I think people need to remember that the original creators left this Netflix project. So I wonder why they left it. What kind of changes did they make to make them sort of be like, yeah, no, we're done here. So yeah, I'm just curious as to how good or how bad the show is going to be. Obviously, with the last Netflix live action adaptation project that was huge, which was One Piece. And then after that, they shadowed or sort of low-key dropped Yu Yu Hakusho, which people have been saying is pretty good as well. I just haven't watched it yet, but I think that with this Avatar Last Airbender series, I think that it is definitely going to live up visually, but how will it land in its execution of the actors' performances, the jokes, and everything like that? Because people need to also remember that Avatar was a very funny show. And I think that some of these jokes within this trailer didn't land for some people in sort of how they were delivered. So I wonder if we're going to get any more of that stuff.
Some of it did felt pretty low energy, like Sokka, like especially felt pretty low energy compared to like his animated version. But I still don't think that's fair to like judge it just based on the trailer. Like, I'm gonna have to watch it to really see. But I still don't think, because it was still a cartoon, so it was still a little silly and stuff. It was allowed to be silly. This definitely seems to be a little more geared towards like a bit more serious. Like, let's bring in more of the big boys in here, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, which I guess is also fair. But I do hope Aang is also like as silly as he was in the cartoon, because I felt like this one makes him like a fun character to follow around and stuff, like his more innocent child mentality faced with these like horrible stuff that's happening, and all the other supporting characters as well. So yeah, I guess we'll see. Again, visually looks great. We're just gonna have to see how the actual story and stuff holds up and what changes they actually do to the show. It's been actually a while since I even watched the animated series. It's been a few years, so maybe I'll do that and rewatch that again as well after this. But I'm only expecting them to go up to the first season. Like, I don't expect them to do any more than that, but yeah, I guess we'll see. So
yeah. All right, so now we got a rumor that has been floating around online is Hayden Christensen is rumored to voice Shadow in the Sonic 3 movie. So I believe there was a news thing that came out shortly after he did his Ahsoka episode that he was looking to get back into the acting space and he was looking for an agent and whatnot. So if this rumor is true and he ends up being Shadow within Sonic 3, the movie, I think that would be a great cast. Obviously, people have been fan casting others like Keanu Reeves and several other actors to take on this role. And I think that Hayden Christensen is fine. A lot of people have been sort of quote retweeting this and sort of putting, I believe, old clips of Sonic Adventure 2 next to Hayden Christensen's performance within Star Wars Episode 3.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, yeah, I mean, you can kind of hear it. Obviously, he's a lot older now, so I don't know if it's going to sound the exact same. But, you know, obviously, this movie is going to be huge because it has Shadow in it. And Shadow is a big pull for a lot of Sonic fans and also just general audiences in general. Look, it's the evil Sonic. Like, how are they going to make this movie?
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, I think that this would be a fine casting choice. I hope that they have Maria shot on screen. Not exactly. But, you know, I hope that they deliver Shadow's story justice. That's all I can really hope for. And, you know, if Hayden Christensen is the voice behind this character, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't, when this news first, like, well, not news, rumor, when the rumor first broke out, I was just like, can I see that? And then I went to, you know, rewatch some like episode 3 clips. I'm like, yeah, you know what? I could see that as Shadow. Again, his voice is, you know, I don't know how his voice is like now, because, you know, he talked a bit in Ahsoka and whatever, and it still sounds kind of the same. But, you know, I don't know. I don't think he has ever really like voice acted too much before. So it's gonna be interesting to see how he brings that into Shadow. But I could definitely see him as Shadow opposed to like Keanu Reeves. Like Keanu Reeves' voice is too deep for Shadow, I think. But you know, I guess we'll see. Again, Shadow voices. You know, you're always gonna think of Jason Griffin, right? Because he was the one that did, you know, him originally, I guess. Yeah. Same thing with I really like Prime's Shadow voice. Like, that's probably my new favorite Shadow voice. We'll talk more about that when we get to it. But you know, I have a certain like idea of what a Shadow should sound like, and I think he could nail it. So either way, I'm very excited for this. You know, when that post credit scene dropped and it was Shadow, I fucking freaked out. I'm like, no way to doing that. Like you said, I want Maria to be shot. we need it. So yeah, I guess we'll see what's going to be canon, what's not going to be. Are they going to do Shadow the Hedgehog shit? Is like Black Doom going to be in there? I don't know. I want at least like Bio-Lizard and shit, but I guess we'll see. So yeah, either way, I'm like way more hyped for this. Like I don't know. I feel like I'm unnecessarily hyped for this movie for no reason. So I hope it's good, but I guess we'll see.
I mean, yeah, we grew up around the time when Shadow was like in his prime and everything, you know, with SA2, and then obviously the Shadow the Hedgehog game came out after that. So, you know, to see Shadow come back in the spotlight a little bit within Sonic Prime and now with this movie, it's exciting. So,
yeah, after years of him being kind of neglected, it's nice for him to make a big comeback. All right, so we got some more news here. So Indiana Jones and the Great Circle got its gameplay revealed during the Microsoft sort of Direct thing they did. So this is made by Machine Games. So they made the new Wolfenstein games. I think it's like New Colossus and the other one that I'm forgetting the name of. But they were good. You know, a lot of those Wolfenstein games were good. And sort of the big, I guess, thing about this game, it's in first person. Like, we knew about this already. Like, when they first revealed like the teaser for it, they said, you know, it was going to be first person because that's what Machine Game does. Like, they do first person games. And for some people, that's like sort of like a big turn off. Is like, why not just make it like Uncharted and stuff? And I was kind of like that too. I'm like, it's kind of a weird direction to go for. But now seeing it and stuff, I'm like, I don't know. Like, it does make it feel a bit more unique because, you know, we have so many Uncharted like games nowadays, right? So I feel like going for that first person sort of almost like Metroid Prime sort of thing, where it's like this big exploration, you know, you have a lot of puzzles to solve in first person, and you still get to see Indy a lot in these third person shots they do. So, you know, you still are Indiana Jones and shit. Just like when you're playing Metroid Prime, you know, Samus goes into third person quite a bit. So, you know, you're playing as Samus, like, you know, that's your character. So I feel like they're kind of doing the same thing there. And I think it's working pretty well. Like, I actually think the gameplay looks pretty cool. You know, like, you have your whip still, you got some gunplay, a lot of puzzles. You know, it's basically what you would expect from an Indiana Jones thing. It feels very authentic. The music, the game looks just graphically pretty good. Yeah, pretty good. I'm not like a big Indiana Jones fan to begin with. Like, you know, I watch all the movies and stuff, but I'm not like a diehard fan or anything. But this looks like a good time, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I still have to watch the Indiana Jones movies before I get into this game because I'm actually kind of excited for it. I even asked my brother if I could borrow his Series X when this game comes out so I could actually play it because I'm not sure if my PC can handle it. But yeah, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, I was very surprised by watching this gameplay trailer to see how they were going to pull it off. And yeah, it's a first-person Indiana Jones game. And like you said, we have a lot of third-person action-adventure games. You know, we have the 4 Uncharted games. We have the new Tomb Raider reboot that they did a few years back. So there's plenty of games within that genre that will fulfill your third-person action-adventure sort of fill, if you will. So to have one within first person and you're playing as Indiana Jones as well, where you got the whip and you shoot guns and everything like that, solve puzzles, I think that that's going to be a lot of fun. And we have Troy Baker, I believe he is playing Indy, which is pretty cool. I mean, Troy Baker, I feel like years and years ago, he was pretty much fucking everywhere, and he kind of still is. So to see him in this role and sort of embrace Indiana Jones is very, very nice. And yeah, I'm excited for this game. It's coming out sometime this year. We don't know exactly when, but it is scheduled to come out this year, I believe, exclusively on Xbox consoles along with PC.
Yeah, and it's not like you can really ruin the Indiana Jones franchise much anyway. Crystal Skull exists, and I haven't heard great things about Dial Destiny either. So, it's whatever. So if you're worried about Indiana Jones lore, like it can't get worse than now. So, and it looks pretty good either way. It looks like they're excited to really embrace that. And, it's kind of like a whole thing with, I know it's kind of a side tangent, but I know some people are kind of afraid of these big companies doing like just not their own IPs anymore. You have Ubisoft with Avatar, Star Wars, Insomniac with all the Marvel stuff, Machine Games now with Indiana Jones. Like, are we, some people are afraid that, will these big IPs take over, like, more original IPs? And I don't really think so. I think strong original IPs are always going to do pretty good just to embrace new things. But it is nice to get these, like, big AAA stuff of things we always wanted, right? Like, there was never really a good Indiana Jones game. Star Wars games are kind of far in between of being, like, pretty good. Spider-Man has some pretty good games, but like things like Harry Potter, that never basically had any good games until recently. So, I think it's pretty cool to see AAA developers kind of pushing for these more, I guess not their own IPs, but making them something into how it would work in a video game. But I guess we'll see. I know there was a lot of doom and gloom about that, especially with the Insomniac stuff. But I guess we'll see how that pans out in the future. And, if all gaming is just like not gaming IPs anymore, then we can worry. But right now, I think it's kind of cool to get this stuff. But yeah, tangent over.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think that, having these AAA studios take on these big IPs is good because it allows the industry to introduce games to potentially new players as well. Like, I'm sure that there's a lot of people that played Hogwarts Legacy that possibly haven't played a game in a few years because it's like, I love Harry Potter. And it's like, well, now you got a really good AAA Harry Potter game, despite, J.K. Rowling and all that other stuff, you have a really good Harry Potter game now. And same thing could be said with this Indiana Jones game. And I'm sure some of those people that really wanted to play a Indiana Jones game may have played the Uncharted games at this point. So now to get one with the official sort of like Indiana Jones license and sort of have that whip and sort of all that gameplay stuff, I think that it's going to be a lot of fun. And, when we get to the point where there's maybe too many, I guess, like AAA IPs only, I think that's when we could panic. But I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon because we still have great games like Alan Wake 2 that came out last year that's like still people are getting impressed by, including myself. So I think that we're still far from that. And, obviously Insomniac Games are still continuing with their Marvel stuff, but, they have some other things that they're working on behind closed doors.
Yeah. So, I don't think it's any time to panic yet. I think it's just cool that we're getting these games at the moment. So yeah, let's just get the good times for now and then we panic later.
Exactly. Next bit of news we got here is Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. They have their free post-game content map. They showed it off, and the first season, they're going to have a playable Elseworld Joker along with a bunch of other playable environments, new guns, new episodes, etc., etc. So, yeah, I mean, I haven't played the game yet. I watched a little bit of Tarek, who's a Valorant/CSGO streamer, play because obviously he got sponsored to play it, and he sucked ass at it, I'll be honest. But just seeing like the elements of it where it's like after every single level, you get to see how much damage people did and sort of like that score bar and everything like that. I think that could be like a lot of fun, even though like this game has been through hell when it came to, I guess, like press and everything like that. I think that when the game does come out, it's probably going to do well and it's probably going to sell a lot of copies because that's the same thing that happened with Gotham Knights. And Gotham Knights came out and it was actually like broken and kind of bad, but people like me still bought it because it's like, well, I could play as one of the Batman sidekicks and play with my friends. Like that's like a cool thing to do. And even though that the Suicide Squad characters are not as well known as, Robin, Nightwing, etc., it's like, well, you get to play as 4 superhero characters, one of them being Harley Quinn, who's pretty recognizable, and now we're gonna eventually get the Joker. I think that the game is probably gonna be a lot better than people are expecting.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird with this game. I don't think this game is going to do well as a live service game. Like, I don't think it's going to have the legs for that. But I think as a solid 15 to 20 hour co-op game, I think it's going to be pretty okay. Like, I think, from what I've been hearing from the previews and stuff, like, people actually have been really enjoying the cutscenes and stuff. Like, they think it's pretty funny. Just, like, just playing it together, like the movement and stuff is good. And, you know, if you just want that solid 15-hour co-op experience, I think it's going to deliver that. The thing where I think it's going to falter is definitely on, like, it being a live service game. Like, I just don't see it having enough legs for that, you know? Like, just, like, from the gun variety, from how the characters all just, like... Yeah, they're there, but like they're all just using the guns anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Like that's where I think the game's gonna fall apart. Like I think the initial experience is gonna be pretty good. I mean, that's basically the same thing that happened with the Avengers game. Like, you know, people pan on it, but you know, the initial campaign was pretty good for a lot of people. And just like afterward, it couldn't really keep up with the live service like demand and stuff. And I feel like Suicide Squad is going to have the same similar fate. Because when I look at gameplay, I'm like, it does look fun. Like, you know, I think the traversal looks like a ton of fun. It looks really pretty. I think the cutscenes, like some of the scenes I have seen, that was hard to say, are pretty good. Like I saw a lot of the Flash stuff and it was pretty funny. So I think the game is going to be like kind of a mixed bag, but I think initially people might like it a lot more than they are saying at the moment. Because, you know, it is really negative and I do understand that. But I think the game will do sort of okay in the beginning, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, and because it's coming out so early on in the year, I feel like when the game does go on sale on Black Friday, because it probably will do that later this year, there's going to be another spike of people that are going to play it, probably me. I'm not sure. I might buy it at launch. I'm not entirely 100% sure because it is a $70 purchase.
Yeah.
And like we've been talking about on this podcast, there's a lot of fucking games coming out that we still need to catch up on. So... yeah, I'm still excited to see how Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League does, just because it is just such a polarizing game, and I fucking love those. So
yeah, I mean, I actually been really enjoying polarizing games a lot more because usually I end up feeling pretty okay about them, but it's just nice to see the discourse around them and like see what I think about it because you know you can only get so much from Twitter, right? So like it's nice to actually experience it yourself and what your own opinion is going to be. So I think that's fun if you have the time for it.
Obviously.
All right, so last thing we have here is Princess Peach Showtime. We got some more transformations to show Cowgirl Peach and Ninja Peach. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it looks great. I think the designs look really cool. I think the game's aesthetic in general just looks like super neat. It's very like, I don't even know how you describe it. It's very like Kirby meets like Thousand Year Door kind of because it has like the whole stage play sort of thing going on. Mm-hmm. But you know, I don't know. It kind of reminds me of Kirby, I guess, because it's more cutesy and shit. I guess. But you know, I am unironically pretty excited for it. Like, you know, I think the transformations look like a lot of fun. Again, my main concern about this game is just if the gameplay elements will all connect cohesively enough, so it won't be too jarring. That's still my major concern with this game because you know, if you're playing as Ninja Peach or I guess one of the more combat-oriented transformations, and then you go into like Detective Peach, would that be like a weird drag to the pacing, or what? You know, like there's a lot of things that make me a bit concerned with this game, but it does seem very unique, and I just love the aesthetic of this game. Like it's very good, and you know, Peach is having her own game again after so long. It's also really cool. So I do hope it sticks to landing, but I guess we'll see. But yeah, it looks really cute, and I'm kind of excited for it.
Yeah, I got the shit pre-ordered. My girlfriend wants to play it very, very badly. But yeah, it's coming out March 22nd. I'm excited for it. I think these new transformations, Ninja and Cowgirl Peach, are pretty much just like additional forms that you could take on and just new powers and new abilities. And like you said, the gameplay styles, how is that all gonna mesh together? Is it going to be as cohesive as they think it is, or is it going to be a sort of like a hodgepodge mess? I don't think so. I feel like Nintendo, they've worked on the Kirby series for a while, and obviously this is taking some inspiration from that with like the different transformations, and obviously like every single thing has a different gameplay style. And I feel like most of these sequences aren't going to take that long, and you're going to move from one stage to the next, and I hope that the tutorials to explain everything is not going to be too drawing and too dried out, because I know Nintendo is known to just like make sure that like everyone who's playing, even if we're like us or like who's like 25 years old or like a kid who's playing, like they know what the hell they're doing, because if you're sort of having this young player sort of do all of these different things, are they going to know how to be Kung Fu Peach and then go back to being Cowgirl Peach or whatever the hell is going on? So yeah, but I'm excited for it. I think that this is going to be a pretty solid Princess Peach game, and like you said, it's been a while since we've had one of those.
Yeah, it's not since the DS, so it's been a very long time.
Yeah, now we will move on to some big hitters within the news. First, we're going to talk about the layoffs within the gaming industry, and then last, we're going to talk about Palworld versus the internet, as I like to call it.
Yes.
But first, the layoffs. So the gaming industry, this was happening towards the end of last year as well, where there were a lot of companies just laying people off, and that has really come full force as of today, and as of, I believe, a few days ago. Riot Games laid off 530 people, or 11% of their staff, and they've also axed Riot Forge, which I believe is partially why they axed so many people. But Riot Forge was their indie publishing thing that just did not pay off, and I could see why, because League of Legends players, it's going to be hard for them to play anything else but League of Legends. Trust me, my girlfriend is getting into League of Legends, and she doesn't want to play anything else, and it kills me sometimes. But just to take a quote from the article, Riot is offering 6 months of salary minimum to all laid off, cash bonuses, and a number of additional benefits and supports, end quote. So, yeah, I mean, it seems like Riot is trying their best to do the right thing, and they obviously, this is a business that people are in. It just sucks that these 500 plus people, I just kept scrolling on Twitter, and every single time I refresh, it was just a new quote retweet of someone being like, yeah, I got axed, I got let go, and I was like, damn, bro, like that fucking sucks, because I'm sure that they loved working at Riot and they loved what they were doing, but unfortunately, whatever sort of part of Riot that they were in was just something that they saw was just not needed anymore. And yeah, I mean, it's just how business works. I hope that these people are able to land on their feet, just because of how the games industry is. It's so volatile, and you never know when your job is going to get let go, just like with these Microsoft employees. Because, when people hear that you work at Microsoft, it's like, oh, that's got to be like a secure job, right? Well, for these almost 2,000 people, that was not the case.
Yeah, dude, this was like really sad to read because, I actually really like the idea of Riot Forge a lot because, I always think that, I basically stopped playing League for like many, many years at this point. I mean, I played it recently and it is fun, playing ARAM. I'm like, I remember why this is fun. I do like ARAM. ARAM is always fun. But, I think the League world is so expansive that you could do a lot more with it. And I thought that was obviously Arcane really expanding the lore with that and just being a great show in general. And then with the Riot Forge stuff, also expanding on different characters and stuff. But, the games just weren't selling very well. And there were good games. Like on Steam, they have pretty good review scores and stuff. I think it's because Riot just never really advertised them as well as they probably should be doing. Yeah. And, as a result, and they were probably just doing it too much. Like they were just doing too many things at once. It's just like, here's all these games, like indie games are publishing all at once. And I think it was just a bit too much for people. It was like 3 in a year, and I think that's a lot. People only have so much time to dedicate to that shit. So, and I think them axing basically the whole publishing branch of it is just really sad because I think it had so much potential that could have been done a lot better with. And they're only going to publish one more game, which is the Vandal City Tale, and like that's it. which it's sad. Like I do. It does suck that they only did it for like one wave of games and now they're just done with it. And it's also sad for anyone that plays Legends of Runeterra because apparently they're also axing a bunch of things from that. They're only going to focus on the PvE from now on, and that game probably isn't going to last much longer anyway. Yeah. But I guess I didn't want to refocus on the live service games like Valorant, TFT, and League, and soon Project L and the MMO they're still making. Then I guess that's enough for them to be happy. But it still sucks that like kill off a bunch of jobs. And I feel like publishing is just getting harder and harder because the Warframe developers, DE, also axed their publishing label last year as well. So it just seems like it's not worth it for a lot of these bigger companies to be publishing and developing games at the side. Like they'd rather just focus their efforts on the games they're making. But, it still sucks for everyone involved because these were some really cool projects. But that unfortunately just won't happen anymore. So, yeah.
It definitely blows because, they were obviously, I'm just looking at the Riot Forge games. I was kind of excited to check out Song of Nunu because that's like a platformer game. Yeah. Obviously, I never got around to it. And all of these games, I believe, are retailing for $30 on whatever platforms that they're on. So I think that is kind of high for like most indie games. I feel like when people think about indie games, they think about like $15, $20. Obviously, inflation has happened recently. So, $30 might be a little more appropriate these days. But, when you have, I guess, like a player-based like League of Legends where like they only want to play League, it's kind of hard to pull them away from that and sort of have them play like a platformer game or whatever, especially when there's so many champions within League where it's like, all right, well, if you're an Echo main, we have this Convergence game that you could play, I guess. Or if you're one of the Nunu mains, like I said, Song of Nunu is a thing. So yeah, I feel like Riot sort of shot themselves in the foot and they were kind of just spreading themselves too thin to a point where it was just not sustainable anymore. And unfortunately, these people were affected.
Yeah, and I guess it also sucks with the Microsoft stuff because I guess this kind of goes into the whole merger thing as well, where they would buy and merge together because Xbox or Microsoft and Blizzard, because all this was mostly on the Blizzard side of stuff. So yeah, most of these employees got axed, and Blizzard had to cancel their upcoming survival game that they teased a few years ago, so that's axed now. So that sucks. So yeah, it just hasn't been a good time for like a lot of stuff, and it kind of, hopefully this doesn't reinforce the thing where it's like, you keep the one strong IP you have, and then you just like, obviously it's good for people that played that game, right? Like League's gonna get a lot more support for years to come because that's their cash cow, right? But it also sucks because they would never really try much new stuff unless it could make a bunch of profit. And that kind of sucks because maybe with the Blizzard stuff, they were just seeing that, Blizzard games in general had just been kind of not doing super hot lately. And they just probably didn't see the survival game thing being profitable or being able to like, oh no, you should redouble your efforts in Overwatch 2 and stuff instead of making this new game, and then just axe. Again, this is all speculation, but either way, it still sucks that so many people had to lose their job, and we lost a cool new IP from Blizzard that maybe could have been something good. So, and all that while Bobby Kotick still gets like a shit ton of money for leaving the company. So, yeah, all that kind of just sucks. Hopefully things get better, but I really don't think so. I think the gaming industry has been kind of in the shit in terms of layoffs, and I don't really see this year being any better. Someone already did the math. I think the amount of layoffs we had in January alone is like more than half of what we had in all of last year, and that was already like a pretty bad year for layoffs. So yeah, hopefully we don't see many more, but I think we are.
Yeah, unfortunate to those people that got laid off, obviously. Yeah, they had no idea what was going to come to them, but with the whole merger thing that has happened between Microsoft and Activision Blizzard, it's like, well, we're just going to have to cut these people off because it's just too much for them, I guess. And yeah, it does suck that they've also are kind of just like, well, we got Overwatch, World of Warcraft, and Diablo. Why do we need this new Odyssey game? Let's just shove it in the trash, which is unfortunate because, like you said, it just reinforces this idea between these developers to be like, well, we got this really big thing, so let's just keep making this really big thing better, and you're gonna stagnate yourself, and there's not gonna be as much creativity or innovation within the industry. A lot of the innovation happens nowadays within the indie front because obviously they have fucking nothing to lose, which I feel like most of these big companies also don't really have a lot to lose other than money, and money is obviously like a thing that runs these businesses, unfortunately, but it is just the way that things are. People are constantly bringing up the whole Iwata thing where when he was president, when the fucking Wii U was like in actually like the shitter, he was taking a cut and he wasn't cutting people below them. And there's like multiple quotes about it being like, well, you don't want to scare your employees if you're cutting other people out because that just creates a hostile work environment or something like that. I don't know if that quote was actually from Iwata or what, but that does it just sounds true, where it's like you see your homies go and it's like, well, shit, am I next? Kind of thing. It's like, should I be looking for another place to work at? So when your leader is the first one to be like, I'm gonna take a price cut or sort of like a cut from their salary, it's like, okay, well, shit, we gotta like better up. We gotta fucking lock in right now and make sure that we're doing better as a company and as a whole for the industry. But
yeah, like it's just also better just for one dude to take a gigantic pay cut than thousands of people losing their jobs and having nothing. Even if the severance is good, which is nice from Riot, it's still like shitty that like mostly when all these companies that, oh, we're making record profits in the last few years, and then like we have the most layoffs we've ever seen. So yeah, something isn't adding up there. More like just the fat cats getting fatter with all the money. So yeah, not great. So hopefully this stops, but I don't see it stopping.
Especially when Microsoft is now currently over $3 trillion, but that's neither here nor there.
Yep. All right.
You take the floor with this one because I haven't played Palworld, but I have been keeping up with the discourse surrounding it.
All right, so Palworld versus Pokemon versus the Incidents, what we have here. So this has been a shit ton of like discourse around this game. So if you don't know what Palworld is, it's basically a survival game with not Pokemon in them, basically. So it has the gameplay loop of like some like Ark or Minecraft or whatever, and you have a bunch of Pokemon running around, basically, but they're not Pokemon. But that's sort of where the issues kind of come into play here. So the main discourse is on the Palworld designs themselves, or I guess the Pals designs themselves. There's been a lot of allegations against I think Pocket Pair is the name of this developer, of the models of the Pals. So there's a few things here. One is the fact that a lot of the pals just look like Pokemon. Like a lot of the assets look like from different Pokemon. There's a good Twitter thread kind of having like a comparison between all the Pokemon they kind of like stole bits and pieces of. And honestly, yeah, like a lot of these pals basically look like Pokemon. Like there's one that looks like Cinderace, but it's grass. There's like a not Quagsire. There's a not Luxray. Like there's a lot of like designs that are basically like, I'm going to take this design and change it up a bit. So that's pretty bad, but it's nothing like illegal, right? Because it's basically like, I'm going to take your homework, but change it. And then there you go. Like it's not illegal. The more damning evidence was that they took the Pokemon models and like sort of used them as their own rigs and stuff. So like you have, there was another Twitter thread that would took the models of a PAL and overlay it on top of a Pokemon. It was basically the same exact thing. Like the rig and how the Pokemon moves was the same thing. Apparently, this has been debunked, and the person that did that comparison was like scaled down the models and stuff to actually make it work. So apparently that's not true. But again, we don't really know for sure. That's just a thing that's out there now. So yeah, because that thread came up and then the dude literally admitted I lied about it. So okay. And then there's the third thing where people are afraid that these pals were designed using AI, because the main president of this company is very into AI. And he even had a Twitter thread where he's like, look what you could do with Pokemon if I put them through an AI thing and then they look different. So a lot of people are afraid that a lot of the pals were basically designed off of AI and then it's just made the 3D models off of that. There's not really a lot of evidence for this because Palworld was already being made 3 years ago. And you could look back. Like, that's where I've known about the game. I know about this game for a while now, and a lot of the designs still look the same. Like, yeah, they're still copying from Pokemon, but AI was like shit 3 years ago. Like, it wasn't producing the amount of like crazy stuff it could do now. So I don't really think that's true in terms of the PAL designs. Maybe some of them, but we don't really know for sure. So yeah, those are all the allegations. It basically boils down to, is it shitty that a lot of the monster designs basically aren't original at all and they're like just super derivative of Pokemon? Yeah. Is it plagiarism? We don't really know yet. So that's sort of like the whole thing that's going on at the moment. And it's been a huge Twitter flame war at the moment. Some people like that this game is doing so well because it might show Game Freak how to make a better Pokemon game. Other people are defending Game Freak, saying like, maybe even if Pokemon games aren't good right now, you still shouldn't steal designs and stuff because it's just like immoral and stuff, and you shouldn't do that. And I think both of those points are correct. And we had some more brain dead takes from some other people being like, artist integrity doesn't matter as long as the thing is good. And I don't really agree with that either. I think that's a pretty not great way to view like art or products or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, either way, those are all the major points that people are having. Basically, people are just not comfortable with the fact that this game borrows so heavily from Pokemon designs and even from other games in terms of gameplay and stuff. And from what I think about all of this is I agree. Like, I think that it would have been cool if the Pocket Pair made their own original designs. Because, we see a lot of other Pocket Monster games like Yokai Watch or Digimon. Like, they might have some things that look like similar to other like to Pokemon, but they are pretty unique. Like Yokai Watch especially, even though I think the gameplay is not great in Yokai Watch, I do appreciate a lot of designs. Like it just takes like the traditional Japanese spirits and stuff and makes them like cute and stuff, and I think that works really well. Same with Digimon, you have some crazy ass designs there. For Palworld, a lot of them are just like, this is like not a Meowth or whatever, So yeah, that's kind of lame. But I do think in terms of like actual gameplay and stuff, it actually is a lot more refined than had any right to be. And I guess this is where I'll talk about like, I guess the game before we get into some of the other stuff. So I played around 4 hours of this game. And yeah, it's fun as fuck. So unfortunately, yeah, the game is fun. Like it borrows a lot from actually Pokemon Arceus, where there's just Pokemon. I'm just gonna call them Pokemon, whatever. There's just Pokemon everywhere, and you can capture them with your Pal Sphere, and it works exactly like Arceus, where you can just throw the ball at them and then you capture them. Everything is real-time combat. There is no turn-based, so when you have your Pal out by just pressing E, you can summon them. They will attack with you, whether you're shooting them or whatever. You can just like your Pal is also doing stuff with you. And on top of that, it adds survival elements, so you could make your base. You could explore the map, which I believe is not randomly generated. It's like a set map for everyone, so like the level design like feels a bit better than other survival games would do. And yeah, you have the typical survival gameplay loop of getting resources, building a base, but you combine that with catching a bunch of Pokemon and shit and raising them up. And it does a cool thing where both of them could connect together, where you can have some pals that are like kind of shit, that are not good at combat, they could be good at doing base building stuff. So you could put them in your base and they start building up stuff, or they could automate a bunch of stuff for you so they could gather wood for you or mine and stuff. And that's really cool. Like, I actually really like how it combines the monster like taming genre with the survival stuff. And it kind of feels like the next step, not for regular Pokemon, but it definitely feels like the next step for the Legend series. Like if Arceus, and I loved Arceus, like if Arceus had this type of stuff too, I think it works super well, just having the survival game element with the monster catching stuff. And yeah, it just blends together really well. You have like big bosses you could fight. I think the gameplay is fun enough. Like obviously it's janky because it's early access and shit, but I think both of the gameplay elements combine together super well, and has been honestly pretty addicting. But you know, I'm still not for them basically taking a lot of Pokemon, because I'm looking at these pals and I'm like, yeah, that's a Sobble, or that's a Quagsire. Like, I'm like, that is just like, that's a Ninetales, you know, like it's just very obvious where they took a lot of the elements from. It's just legally distinct Pokemon, right? But then we have some more controversy here. So someone made a Pokemon mod, straight up Pokemon mod for Palworld that got DMCA'd from Nintendo. So this basically just took all the models from Palworld and just made them Pokemon. So you have like Wooloo and Pikachu and Torchic and shit. And yeah, Nintendo did not like that. But also you have to keep in mind, this mod maker was also like, he wanted you to pay for this mod, so that's also probably was a big no-no, because you can't profit off the off others' IPs, obviously. So that's also another reason why it got taken down as well, which also, you know, people aren't talking about as much on the headlines, but yes, that was another thing that was happening. And then lastly, the Pokemon Company has made an official statement yesterday about all of this being, I think they have like a whole section about, inquiries regarding other companies' games, basically being like, don't do that. Like, don't take our IPs, don't sell them, that's not okay and stuff. We don't know how much that was about actual Palworld, or if that was about the mod in Palworld. We don't really know. So either way, it's been kind of a mess. But again, in terms of like how true and stuff this stuff is, I think it's like half and half, where I think the game is fun, and I do think Game Freak, and the reason why this is doing so well is because, you know, the last few games Game Freak has been making, you know, haven't been up to a lot of people's standards. I mean, I feel that way, but also not really, because I really like Scarlet and Violet and Arceus. I could acknowledge they're very broken games and there's a lot of problems with them, but it's like I said, like a podcast ago, like this is the most fun I had with Pokemon in a while. So when Palworld came along, I kind of just see it as more like expanding on what something like Legends Arceus already did, and just making it like a fun new thing. It's like, yeah, like monster catching with survival game elements. I think that's really fun. But yeah, it's still not cool that they took so many elements from Pokemon designs, and that's sort of like the main artist integrity of it, right? So I mean, I feel like as long as it's not straight up plagiarism, then it's more like that's kind of shitty, but I guess it's whatever. But if they are actually taking Pokemon models and make them move like, you know, like how the pals are, then that's like not okay, and I wouldn't feel that comfortable keep playing it. That is true, but again, I don't fucking know. So yeah, that's what's been going on. And obviously the game's been selling like fucking insane. This game has sold 8 million copies in like not even a week, and it has like 2 million concurrent players on Steam, which is insane. I've never seen that many people playing one game at once, and it's not even like that big of a multiplayer game. It's like mostly like a co-op type thing. So yeah, the success of this game has been insane, and the discourse has been crazier, and I think the game itself is pretty good. So yeah, it's been the whole fucking thing. So
yeah, I mean, you know, I've just been watching Palworld sort of rise to the top within popularity within the gaming community, and it is crazy to see how many copies this game has actually sold. Like, it's not just like players who are also on Game Pass, it's literally people who are buying the game for $30 that's in early access, and they're just playing it. I mean, just to like give context for people with Pocket Pair, the developers of this game, you know, obviously they made Palworld, but they also made Craftopia. That is pretty much a Legend of Zelda clone.
Breath of the Wild,
yep. That is still within early access. You could buy it right now on Steam for $25. So when people were coming out and being like, why isn't it Nintendo, Game Freak, the Pokemon Company coming after Palworld? I'm like, well, why didn't Nintendo go after them for Craftopia? Because it's different enough where, you know, it's obviously clearly inspired by Breath of the Wild, and it's clearly, you know, the pals within Palworld that they are clearly inspired by Pokemon, but it's not like they're taking Pokemon straight up and just using it within the game. Like that's why Nintendo acted so fast with that modder that they were like, all right, you're done. Like, you are donezo. You are getting DMCA'd instantly. It wasn't even like 24 hours. Like, that guy was toast. So with this game, it's like, well, whatever Game Freak and the Pokemon Company find at this point after their official statement, it's like, what are they going to do? Are they going to sue them? Are they actually going to try to DMCA take down this game? Because then if that happens, it's like, well, what's going to happen to the game? Like, are they going to actually change the PALs? Are they going to overhaul literally everything within the sort of monster designs? I think that would be the only way that they could keep the game up, is if they did that. Obviously, I'm not like a fucking legal counsel or anything, so I don't know what would happen if they were to actually take legal action against it. But yeah, I think the reason why Palworld is just so successful is because, it's been years since some people have played an actual like Pokemon game. And this isn't necessarily Pokemon, but it has that Pokemon aesthetic. It's a survival game, and they're able to, have like their little monsters shoot guns. Yeah, fuck it. Why not? It sounds like a lot of fun. People are commonly describing this game as Pokemon with guns. And that's all you have to say to sell people on this game. To be like, it's Pokemon with guns. It's like, all right, cool. I'm down. Here's my $30. I'm playing it right now on Steam, whatever. And for people, or I guess like Pokemon fans, would be like, like I don't really feel comfortable about playing this game because, it takes so much inspiration from Pokemon. It's like, okay, yeah, you know what? That's your agenda. I'm not going to necessarily judge you for it. Where do I stand on this whole, Palworld versus pretty much everyone situation? It's like, I get it that, you're like a diehard Pokemon fan and you don't want to support these developers that are, sort of taking heavy inspiration from the Pokemon designs and using it within their game. But I feel like it's a little bit of dick riding. I don't know. I feel like the Pokemon games recently, like you said, like you enjoy the recent adventures, but there's a reason why I haven't played a Pokemon game in years. It's probably because I just hear so much bad press about them. Every single time a fucking new one comes out, it's just like, it's broken, it's janky. Is it really worth my time to really play if it's going to run at like 15 frames on the Nintendo Switch? I don't know. Will I have fun with it? Maybe. I'm not entirely sure. But am I going to pay that like $60 price tag to find out? No. This game's $30. So I think that's also another reason why people are much more willing to play it, and why it's hit over 8 million copies at this point, and why it has 2 million concurrent players, because it's on PC, it's $30, and it's Pokemon with guns. What more can you say about the game for it to be successful? And I think no one really saw this game being at this point right now. No one fucking saw that this game is going to sell millions and millions and millions and millions of copies.
Dude,
so
like, I thought it was a fake fucking game. Like, when I saw this like 3 years ago, I'm like, this is a fake game that just like, they made the funny trailer with the Pokemon and like the little conveyor belt making guns and shit, and then like Totoro shooting a minigun. I'm like, this is fake as shit. Like, this is never gonna come out. And then when it actually came out and became one of the biggest things ever, that surprised me. And yeah, I mean, you're right about some people being like too defensive about Pokemon and like dick riding Game Freak and stuff. Like, yeah, some people are doing it like that, and then you have the other side that are being like, yeah, fuck everything, like, yeah, fuck Game Freak, like, this is what they deserve. And I'm just like, I feel like both sides are kind of cringe with that shit. Like, I definitely agree with the side with like more artist integrity thing, where it's just like, yeah, it's just more like a moral thing, like, yeah, I probably shouldn't do that. And again, I think if they just copied the designs, like, it's like kind of whatever. But if they straight up plagiarized it, then yeah, that would be more of an issue. But like you said, I feel like if Nintendo knew that they were straight up plagiarizing, this game would have not even come out. I don't think. Like, I think they would put their foot down a lot sooner than they did. So, but I guess we'll see. Like in the coming weeks, if they do have a case about it, then this game will be put off Steam and shit. But I think it's been way too popular so far for Nintendo to like actually have any grounds to like copyright. Like, if anything, Pocket Pair could probably be like, oh, a parody. Like, it's a parody. So like, I feel like there's some weird defense they could use, and that's why it's not like getting copyrighted immediately. But either way, I think the game is fun. It's a lot more in depth than I thought it was going to be. A lot of cool systems that combine really well together, and I think it is like overall a really fun game. But to say Pocket Pair doesn't take heavy inspiration from a lot of things is also kind of like capping and like weird. Like, that's what most of their games are. They even have an upcoming game that's straight up just Hollow Knight. Like, it just looks like Hollow Knight, but not Hollow Knight. So they obviously have a formula here that they like to do. Just like they take someone's work and like kind of change it up a bit. But at least when it comes to Palworld, I do think it is a fun time. A lot of people are having good times with it. Everyone's fucking playing it. And I think it's fun. As a Pokemon fan that's been playing Pokemon since I was a fucking baby, like, I think that there's some things here that Game Freak should look at. Like, if they want to make a new RCS game or a new Legends game, I think taking some of these elements, implying to that game would actually be pretty sick, because I am having like a lot of fun with Palworld. So yeah.
I definitely think the I guess like the toxic side of it, where people are like, yeah, fuck Game Freak and all that other stuff. I think that is definitely like not okay. Obviously, I think
it's just
that,
like you're not showing them anything. Like Scarlet and Violet like sold like 23 million copies. like it's whatever. Like I think just play the game if you want to, and if the plagiarism is like actually founded, then I probably just won't support it at that point. Just like, stop playing it. I mean, I give them my money already, but I'll be like, I won't talk about it anymore. So yeah.
We'll see where Palworld stands within the next coming months. I would be very surprised if within a year the game is still on top of the world, kind of thing, because it's definitely going to lose steam at some point. And I feel like with every like new major hit surprise game, some of them sort of fall behind in sort of keeping players' attentions there, because obviously there's people out there that probably already have 200 hours on this game already. I wouldn't be fucking surprised, because big streamers are playing it and they probably enjoy playing it a lot themselves. So when is that new content going to come? When are they going to give us new things for people to enjoy? Because obviously at a certain point, because the game is in early access, you are kind of encouraged to just continuously update the game, hopefully, and sort of give players new things to look at, try out before the game is fully released, if you will. A lot of games come out on Steam that are within the early access and they just stay there, such as Craftopia. I believe that game is still within early access that Pocket Pair have made, but will they continue that game? Who the fuck knows? I feel like with Palworld, they're definitely going to continue making this game because it has sold millions and millions of copies at this point. So
yeah, I mean, they have a roadmap and stuff for more features they want to add. So we'll see if they actually keep with this game. I mean, they could just leave with the fucking money. Like, they don't have to. But, I am kind of invested to see what they do with it. New pals, new, like, regions of the world, I guess. But I guess we'll see how it develops, if they get fucking copyright struck and stuff. But I guess we'll see. We'll keep up with this, because I feel like this news is going to develop more in the coming weeks. So we'll see.
Yeah. All right, so moving on from there, we're going to get into the last part of the show, which is Sonic Prime
I totally
Season
forgot.
3. This is the last thing.
I went to a whole rant about Palworld. Yeah.
So let me just get everyone up to speed. We're going to talk about spoilers on Sonic Prime Season 3. This is apparently the final season that they have planned for this Netflix CGI Sonic series. There's no other seasons after this, which is fitting for how it ended. But yeah, I mean, I think that the season was okay. I think that we're at the point within this series that it's just like, okay, yeah, some of the writing is just kind of bad, because they're just like, well, it's for kids. And I'm like, well, it's a 25-year-old Sonic fan. These things are just terrible. I don't know. I feel like Sonic is just way too naive towards at this point. He's like way too naive, and like certain things like decisions happen and he changes his mind so quickly. Like, I believe within one episode he's like, no, we can't fight Tails, and then like he like surrenders himself, and then like the whole goon squad comes in and like invades, and then he's like, whoa, what the fuck are you guys doing here? And then they're like, well, we're gonna fight him, and then he's like, all right, I guess we're fighting him now. And I'm like, I don't know if this writing really adds up here. But yeah, I mean, the whole like 9 plotline, I think that was like a fantastic ending for Season 2, where it was like 9 is fucking evil and he like wants to like destroy everything so he could be happy himself. And it's like, okay, yeah, like that's fine. But the whole season is just about Sonic being like, please, please, please don't do it. And I'm just like, I don't know. I just didn't really like it.
I think the main problem with Sonic Prime is also how like drawn out it is. Like, it really didn't have to be 3 seasons at all. This could have been like 2 seasons. Like, they didn't really have to drag it out as much. There's a lot of episodes that you could just cut, or just like brainless like fighting. Like, I would say like the animation and stuff, even the voice acting, I think are pretty good. Especially like, again, the animation I think is really good. Like, I think it's very expressive and stuff. It's more just like the assets. Like, they use a lot of the same assets like in the whole show, and that's been an issue since Season 1. Where that's why I feel like the fights aren't as exciting as they should be, because it's like, oh, they're fighting a robot Sonic, or they're fighting an Egg Forcer for like the 50th fucking time. So I feel like you could have cut a lot of that out, and I think this show should have been like 2 seasons. Like, I really do like the 9 stuff. Like, I think Tails being a villain is such a cool twist. Like, because you have him being smart like Eggman, but like, he kind of knows more stuff. Like, he's not as dumb basically and shit. So I think that's really cool. But again, like you said with the Sonic writing himself, I think they do lean more towards him being like, this feels more like how movie Sonic is written, I guess. Like, but movie Sonic I feel like is younger in general, and it's like its own canon. So I feel like this one just makes like modern Sonic. I'm looking at modern Sonic, but he's acting like he's like 5, you know, like so it's kind of weird. Like he's, and I know, you know, kids have to learn like friendship important and like all this other bullshit, but it's also, I feel like there's better ways to do it, because Sonic has always been like cool, right? Like he's always like really cool and shit. I feel like this one he's just like, but don't do it. And stuff. I also find it funny whenever the show gets like super dramatic, because it's pretty funny. Like when like fucking I forgot the other two tails when they fucking die for a second.
Oh yeah, Star like, and Sails or whatever the fuck.
Sails and Mangy, I think. And
it's Sails and Mangy. Yeah.
Like no, like dude, he was putting his fucking whole voice acting career in that like shit. Like he was going in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think overall, I think the show is good. Like I really like the first season. I thought the first half of season 2 was pretty good, but then the later half of it was just, again, mindless fighting. And then this third season felt like it could have been like an hour special or something, right? It didn't have to be 7 episodes, but yeah, that's kind of how I end. I still feel more positively about it than most Sonic fans. Like most Sonic fans fucking hate this show. I think it's just okay. I think there's just some things that could have been done a lot better. So
yeah, I definitely feel like, you know, this is just like, I guess a syndrome of it being like a kid's show, if you will, like them marketing it as like a Netflix kids show. So that sucks about it. But, you know, there are obviously good things about it. Like you said, with the animation, I think that a lot of the fight scenes, they were animated very, very well.
Yeah, they are.
Like, I believe when it was Sonic and the Knuckles variant versus 9, like I think that
yeah,
like,
that looks sick. Yeah,
that fight sequence, I was like, damn, we're like up close and personal. We're seeing Knuckles like fucking throw hands. Well, okay, I can see it. I can see what they're doing. And obviously, like the voice acting is like amazing. I think that everyone really does bring it their all. And obviously, with Shadow's voice actor is praised infinitely every single time
it's so
Sonic
good,
Prime
dude.
is talked about. And the interaction with the roses, I think I really like that part, because it was just like, oh, you know, like girly pop, you know, like we're working together, you know,
girl power, girl boss.
It's just a lot of fun, you know. I think that the writing and sort of like how the characters shape and sort of how they move and or sort of how they interact with each other, I think that was like a main problem with it. I can't believe we have another Sonic media thing where it's like Sonic gets a virus and then he's about to die again.
You're right, actually.
I'm like, yo, are we doing this shit again? We had it within Sonic Frontiers and we also had it within the Sonic IDW series, which, you know, Ian Flynn was a writer at the time for that Zombot arc, which happened to also be working on Sonic Frontiers. I don't think he worked on anything within Sonic Prime or whatever, as far as I know. Maybe he was like a supervisor or something like that. But anyways, another thing where Sonic's just like, I'm dying, and I'm like, okay, all right, we get it. But you know, it was definitely nice to go and see, I guess, like that final conclusion where like Sonic's like, I've learned my lesson, and no one really knows that I went on this whole fucking 3-season adventure before getting up to this point where I don't break the shards or whatever.
Yeah. So yeah, I think overall, I think the show is good. Like, you know, I actually ended up caring a lot, like, about some of the variants more than I thought I was going to. Like, I still really like the Dread stuff from season 2. Like, I thought that was a fun, like, variation of Knuckles. Like, the Amy's, you said, were like, a lot of fun. You know, when they had the whole fucking endgame moment when they're all like, gonna fight. Like, what is this? But, no, I think overall, I feel pretty positive about the show. Like, all the things I said. Shadow, and I can't praise enough. Like, you know, I love his voice. I think there's a great voice for Shadow. Please, you know, just bring him for the games, please. And like I said, like the animations is really good as well. But I think it really kind of falls apart more being that just really long-winded. Like it's so long-winded. It really didn't have to be this long. And the fact that I think Sonic's characterization really sours a lot of people. Like, I think that's like probably the number one problem with the show for a lot of people. At least that's what I see on Twitter. Like, people hate this version of Sonic. and I don't even think, like, his voice actor is good too. Like, I like whoever voices him for this Sonic. But and I get it. I don't hate this version of Sonic as much as some other people do, but I definitely get why he's like kind of like just a weird, like, naive child in this one, as opposed to how he usually is in other games, you know? So
yeah, I feel like, you know, Sonic would be a lot smarter and a lot more, I guess, like, witty about it also, and not sort of just be like, Nine, please don't, please don't kill everyone thing. And it's like, this is like the 100th time that you're trying to talk him out of it, and then I guess it finally worked once Nine realized that, like, everything was gonna collapse or whatever. So that really also soured Nine's character as a whole, because it was just like, oh, you know, like, he's like this cool sort of Tails variant that sort of, you know, really had nothing because Sonic wasn't there for him, and then he went evil. And you know, for most of season 3, he's just like, I'm gonna kill Sonic, and I'm like, all right, I guess. I mean, I guess that's like the next course thing that you can do. And then he's like, but I need his energy so that I could, you know, stabilize everything. And I'm like, all right, well, that's not gonna happen, obviously. So I don't know. I guess it's just like, you know, kid show stuff that, you know, the writers are just like, well, you know, the kids aren't going to see this coming when we're going to bring back sales and whatever in
Mangy.
in the stupid Big Mac or whatever. And I was just like, all right, I guess. I mean, I didn't really see that coming. I thought that they were just dead. I was like, all right, cool.
I forgot what even happened because they like blew up, and I'm like, oh, they're not dead. Like, you know, I literally thought that to myself, and then I didn't even realize it didn't come back until then. That was like an episode later. I'm like, oh shit. I guess some poor kids just thought they were dead for like the whole time. But yeah, hopefully if they do another Sonic series, I would love to see a Sonic series animated by Powerhouse. Like, that would be really sick. You know, they've done all the intros and stuff for the newer games. They also done, I think they did that trailer, the Knuckles trailer, what do you call that? Prologue thing for Sonic Frontiers, and that was really cool. Like, just an anime Sonic thing would be really sick, because especially by that team, because they animate Sonic characters very well. But I guess the only thing else we gotta look forward to is the movie right now for not game media. But yeah, I think overall Sonic Prime, I don't think it's as bad as some people are saying, but I definitely think it could have been a lot better. So yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely think that the next Sonic animation TV show thing should definitely be 2D. I think that, you know, we've had our fair share of like 3D CGI stuff, obviously with the movie still going on and obviously with Sonic Prime. I think that those two were good enough. I think that going back to the 2D roots and sort of having it be 2D animated, whether it's in the classic era or the modern era, I don't really care. I just want, you know, good Sonic stuff, obviously, you know, even though if it is just like, you know, little adventures or whatever, it's fun to see these characters interact.
Yep. I do love Sonic, unfortunately.
All right, so that is it for this episode of the Travis and Damian podcast, episode 130. Is there anything else you would like to add, Damian?
No, that's everything.
All right, so thank you guys for listening to the Travis and Damian podcast once again, and we will see you guys 2 weeks from now with another episode.
See ya.